You've reached Monster 911, and I'm Lance Hightower. I've been taking cryptid emergency calls for over 5 years. If you have a cryptid emergency, please call our toll-free number 866-306-8085. I can help you. What's your emergency? Welcome back, folks, to Monster 911. This is Lance Hightower, and it's so good to be back with you guys once again, sharing mysterious, real creature encounters shared by good folks just like you and me. And if you've been witness to something or have had a bizarre event occur that you just can't explain, call me. I'll listen. All calls are treated with respect and sensitivity. Call our toll-free report hotline at 1-866-306-8085 and leave your message. I'll usually return all messages within 24 hours or less. You don't have to leave your real name, and your occupation and exact location can be kept confidential. Remember, last night, folks, dozens of other good people across the country had their first encounter. They're frightened, they have a multitude of questions, and they're not sure who they can tell to share what they saw or what happened to them. Please direct them to our toll-free number. Many have, and they're so thankful they did. Before we get on to the next show, I just want to remind all of you that we have been building up our social media platforms slowly here, but quickly in some areas. We're on Twitter at Monster_911. We're on Facebook at Monster911, and we're on Spotify, the podcast platform, at Monster911. And, of course, we have a new website. Many of you have been to it already, ordering some cool merch, and it's at www.monster911.com. It's brand new, and like I said, we have some really cool merch on the store there. You guys, I sincerely appreciate what you're doing in buying the shirts. It's kind of cool for some of you that are Bigfooter, that are researcher. You're going to these events this year and into the fall, and they're going to be coming next spring. And no one has this shirt, and it's really, they're doing quite well here. So it's high-quality cotton. It fits great, and the logo is really cool. And usually you'll see me wearing it in a lot of the field investigations I'm doing, as well as the interview videos that I'll be doing for you guys. And if you would like to see something in our store that we should carry, please let me know. I'm open to your suggestion, guys, anytime. Just leave comments in any of the shows. And please keep in mind that your comments do help the show grow. I sincerely appreciate them. I do try to reply back as I get a moment here and there, and your comments are well appreciated, so thank you. Thank you. At present, I'm continuing to interview guests through the week and film in the field on weekends for you all, so you're getting a huge value of encounter stories. You're getting compilations from our former channel, you're getting our patron-exclusive never-heard-before shows, and you'll soon be getting some brand new 2022 interviews with film footage, so stay tuned. Don't miss out on all of the shows that we have planned for you guys. Moving on here now to the next show. It comes from my state once again, Oklahoma. This guest shares some of the strangest sightings and most horrifying moments that he's ever experienced while he and his brothers enjoyed their cabin in the mountains of Oklahoma. His family has a cabin down in the southern region where the land is rocky, rugged, and dangerous to traverse. This particular area also has a rich, secret history of creature sightings and unexplainable events over the decades. But as you'll hear, this sighting was experienced by some of his family, and what they told him would forever puzzle his mind and theirs as to what they truly saw. As it was running alongside of a remote dirt road, what do you think they witnessed?
Well, the very first thing was back in the early 80s. We were building a cabin down on our land in Kiamichi, and my nephew and a friend of his, they're like a year out of high school, they're about. And their dad, my brother, brought them out here out to the mountains to drop them off. They're going to do some overnight camping or something. Meanwhile, I'm down at the cabin working, and then all of a sudden, it would be that morning, I guess it was, I hear his name is Michael John. I hear Michael hollering for me. I'm up on the roof, and I'm looking around, and I see him and his friend coming towards me. So I came down, and they said that for me to come with them, that they had seen something, and they're not quite sure what it is. So we walk over to where they encountered this thing, and they were in the woods, and there's a road out there, and they're in there working on their camp or something. When they look up and they see this thing just out by the road. And it was tall, dark, hairy. And, your first thought is, what is that? You first thought it might be a bear, but no, it's not a deer or anything like that. So they take off, and they grab their rifle, and they take off, and this thing starts walking. And they are following behind it, Lance. And they said it was every bit of 8 foot tall, taking big strides, long arms, and every now and then he would kind of look over its shoulder at it, but he would never stop. He wasn't walking in the road. He'd be walking to the side of the road, which would be the west side of the road, and just out of the ditch. And they followed him, but they couldn't ever get it. There was kind of a curve. At that curve, they kind of lost it, and then they broke and run. As they came around the curve, there he was, still walking, but they hadn't gained on him. And he said what really got him was this land, that from time to time, this thing basically went chameleon.
What?
Yeah. And then it would reappear. And they would walk, and they would walk, and they're nearing this. We have a big highlight that comes down through there. And it did about 2, maybe 3 times. But particularly the bottom half of it went kind of chameleon. One time, about 3/4 of it did. And he kind of blended in as he walked. He would blend in with the trees and things as he went by on the edge of the road. Then all of a sudden, they get to the high line, and this thing turned and is going with the high line, heading west, down towards the ranch house. And at this time, Lance, there was scrub brush, I don't know, 30 inches high, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They said he went right down through that like it was nothing. Now, at this point, it's when they've come and got me and everything, because that's where they dropped off the high line, and our cabin is right near it. So I go back up there, and I do see this limb up there that it broke. It's about, I'm guesstimating 8 to 9 foot up, and it was just hanging there. And he headed on down towards the ranch.
Wow.
Now, that was the very first sighting, or the very first thing we ever had down there was that event right there.
Could you tell me about what year this was, and if you're allowed to tell me what county?
I tell you what, Lance, if I was home, I have that stuff all documented. I could give you the exact date and time, actually, because I've got it all written down. And I can call you back with that, or you can call me later. And but anyway, that was the very first one.
And what county was that? Are you allowed to tell me which county?
Yeah, it's Latimer.
Where?
Latimer.
Oh, Latimer County in Oklahoma. Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the terrain down there, to kind of describe to people, would you mind describing a little bit of the terrain that's down there where your cabin's at?
Yeah, a lot of mountains, a lot of hills, real rough. A lot of brush, timber, heavy pine timber, and oak, and hickory, a lot of that. But it's real hilly, and like I say, it's rough. There can be something standing 20 feet from you might never even see it,
Right.
And so it's the Kiamichi Mountains. I mean, anybody knows what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was just wanting to kind of get a mind's eye of the terrain, and I forgot which county that you had your cabin in. So that was the first time that...
The very first time.
And that
your family and you, they saw this thing, and
Yeah.
when it went chameleon. Now, was this a brother that saw this? When you say family member,
No, it would be my nephew and his friend.
When they went chameleon, did they get more descriptive on what they meant? Like it just the bottom half disappeared, or
Yes, just disappeared. He said most time it was the bottom half, but it got as high as maybe 3/4 of it, and then as it turned down the high line, it was you could see the full thing. They saw the full thing the very first time. They saw the full thing as they was following it, and then it started doing the chameleon thing about it. But basically going stealth, the way it was. And I kind of ran this by the DFRO people, and they didn't want to really acknowledge that. Not really. And I found that kind of odd, but hey, I know you know what you see.
Yes, sir.
And he had a friend that was with him, and he saw it too. And but the funny thing was though, when that curve on the road, when they lost sight of him, and they broke a run to gain some ground on it,
mm-hmm.
as when they came around the corner of that curve, he was still on the right hand side of the road. And basically the same distance. They hadn't gained hardly anything on it. So, yeah, I know. From that point on, that's when things started happening. And the thing that really struck me about the gentleman from Ohio was they're in the boat, and we got rock throwing, right?
Right.
Okay. Well, one of our close friends was down in our cabin, he and his family. And he was around there's a kind of a pond down there, and he's on the opposite side of the pond where the cabin is. And he's kind of playing around there. All of a sudden, there's this big splash in the water. And he's thinking, what? Fish, bass, something like that. And he did it again. He thought, hey, this pond's full of fish. And about that time, he's kind of looking around. He literally sees the rock coming from the trees in the air. And he said this thing was a pebble. It's about like a half size of a bowling ball. But all these things were being thrown towards him.
Wow.
So like I said, he saw it coming out of the trees in the air, coming towards him, but going towards the pond at the same time. And when that happened, he broke and run. Rounded up his family, and they got out of there. Because he didn't know, because he knew about the first sight I told you about. He knew all about that.
Okay.
And this is right in the same area. See, it's got that cabin. And they left and came back to Tulsa. And then it really started snowballing from that point on. We've had all kinds of that stuff going on down there. But most recently, we had a sighting down there by my friend in our cabin on, let's see, be like on the 2nd. I think it was on the 2nd of November.
Oh, wow, this month.
Yeah. Came eye to eye with it about 50 yards away.
Yeah, please go into that. What happened?
Well, he's come out on a four-wheeler on the little road that goes back to my brother's cabin and our cabin, out to what we call the road. And it's like the main road. It kind of goes down through those mountains. It's for the fire department, really. It's for fires.
Mm-hmm.
And as he comes out, we always look left or right, because we're always looking for deer or another vehicle or a four-wheeler or something. He looks right, looks left, and as he looks left, he thinks, no, something's wrong. He looks back to his right again, did a double take, and there it was. He said it was about 7, maybe 8 foot tall, very hairy, gray. He said it was gray looking. And when Mike did a double take, it moved its head like he's doing the same thing on Mike. And Mike's going, oh my God. Now keep in mind, Mike's got his gun on too.
I see.
And like the Ohio guy, Mike didn't pull his gun either. I guess it was the shock of it. But anyway,
right.
This thing took it's looking at Mike, which would be straight on. Then it takes a step to its left. And when it did, at that point, Mike lost sight of it. And about that, maybe an hour later, I show up. He's coming back, so we go down to the site. Mike retracts everything he just did. We then drive down to where he saw it. And I was saying that the general area where he said he saw it. And the true fact was there was a little cedar tree there between where it stood and Mike was parked. And when that thing took that step to the left, that put him behind that tree, and that's how Mike lost sight of him. So he didn't step all that far, and he just enough that tree to block him.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we're when we see enough of this stuff where we're always real careful and while we're doing like investigation type stuff, and we did find a foot imprint in the dirt / leaves. And when Mike put his foot in it was a lot bigger than Mike's foot. And there was like 2, maybe 3 limbs, that general area that had been snapped down. And we knew the way it had to go because it could do 2 other ways, 2 different directions. There's some old timber right there, and if he would have gone through, he would knock all that over. But he didn't. He went kind of back to his left, and where it wasn't as bad, he did snap 2 limbs doing that.
Wow. And that was
yeah.
broad daylight.
Oh, that was about 5 o'clock, he said.
Okay, plenty of light still. I mean, it's the daylight's changing, but it's still plenty of light.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So it sounds like both of them were kind of surprised that the other was right there.
Yes. And we looked in the road, and we saw no tracks in the road, so apparently it was headed... Remember I told you about the mountain K2?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, he was headed that direction. But as Mike pulled up there, and he stepped out, he saw Mike, and Mike saw him, and that stopped his progress from getting too open in the road. And that's when he stepped back to his left, and Mike lost him at that point.
Bill, what do you think, in your opinion? You said that the first time we spoke, you guys have been kind of in a documentation phase and investigating. What, in your opinion, do you think the range of these creatures are? Why would they venture out? And I mean, we know the obvious, if there's food sources or if they have a scout that goes out. But what is your opinion and your family's opinion about the range of these creatures?
I think, well, like I was saying, Lance, I had this stuff all plotted on a map, and I don't think the range is all that great. Not what we're encountering. That's maybe just a few miles.
So when you encounter one, based on where you're at right now in the Kiamichi area, based when you see one or you see evidence of one, evidence being prints or tree breaks or structures, the likelihood that they're still in that area or remaining in that area is still very likely, is what you're saying, close by. Or
yes.
Uh-huh. So...
And go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so if someone encounters vocalizations or that being included, the likelihood is that tends to be an area they habitate, they gather food, they get water, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, see, there's a big creek comes out down the middle of all this. So a lot of cedar cover, and vocalizations. Oh my gosh! We have found on footprints. We have found what you would normally, think of it. The big flat, the toes prints that we all have seen.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, I've seen that one myself in a road. Not all the toes because it's kind of rocky, but the toe area would hit. That was kind of but we did get one toe, but the footprint was big. And since that time, we've encountered 1, 2, 3 more tracks, of which Mark's got pictures of one of those. But twice now we've seen the 3-toe. And I first saw that 3-toe, and they're like about 8 inches long, and the pad be kind of like in the back of it. And first time I ever saw that was down by that high line where our boys were camped. And I went down and checked on them the next morning, and they say something was around the camp, and we look around, and here's this very plain, this track. Well, to be honest with you, I didn't think too much about it. I thought, well, it's a giant turkey. I don't know, you know? So,
right.
Yeah. So anyway, then my brother, and with a Hollywood co-friend of his, was back in the area where he kind of hunts, and they found this print again a few years later going up the bank of a creek. And then here recently, within the last year or so, he and his girlfriend were way back in there, and they found this same track again. So we've had the regular type of footprint. We've had one that was in a ditch, be like a front pad, a back pad, and some toes, and then the 3-toe. So we know the 3 different things that's down there of the same thing. We know that.
How far apart? So you're saying there's different Bigfoot down there, and they're how far apart, or what's the distance between these footprints that you found? The distance between one set of prints to the other set of prints? Are we talking a mile, a half mile, a quarter mile?
No, no more than a mile. No more than that.
There's the high probability, based on these different prints, based on the toes and the length and the width of these, that you're dealing with a clan or a group of these things.
Yes.
Do you think they were down there prior to, I think you said that, but I hate to repeat questions here, but do you think that they were there prior to you setting up your cabin, or did they migrate in later?
No, I don't think they migrated in later because, see, when I was younger, I had heard stories. You know, and we used to go camps like that, you know, and young boys, we hear noises, you think, oh my God, what's that? But I had heard stories of these things, they used to call them. And one of them was over this mountains from us. There was 5 guys in a truck, 4 guys in a truck one time, and they saw one walking along the woods very clearly. So that would be before Michael saw his, years before that. So no, I think they've migrated into our areas is what's probably happened.
What's your feeling about, and have you guys laid anything out? You know, people sometimes will so-called gift these creatures or feed them apples and stuff. What's your feeling about that, and have you guys done that?
No, we have not. We have not done that. But now you bring up when you use the word apple. We've had one recently. It's November. Let's see, was it October the 30th or 31st? We were all back down at the cabin because of the black powder season and all that stuff going on. So we're all back down there again, and me and Mike are at the cabin, and Mark and his Lance come over to our cabin and tell us that they had found, when they were coming in to their cabin, there's a kind of a little sump here in that road, so we made like a little bypass road, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But we got our boat wheelers around it and all that kind of stuff. Well, as they're coming in there is 8 horse apples lined up in a single line. Now, do you know what a horse apple is?
I do. It's off a bodark. Okay. Isn't it off a bodark tree?
Yes, it is. Or Osage orange, the real name of it. But yeah, bodark. Anyway, they were lined up. Well, here's the strange thing about that. There's no Osage orange or bodark trees anywhere within miles of there. Because I make Native American bows and things like that, and trust me, I walked all through the woods looking for bow timber. Now, back on the main ranch that we drive through, there is one, maybe even more, but that's a little ways away from there. So, then me and Mike said, well, let's go and check out these things. It's about the next day. We go down there, and this single line of horse apples is now broken up into groups of 4, kind of scattered around, within about a 4-foot area of each other. 4 in one group, 4 in another group. And I took a picture of all these. I got that on camera. So something came through there and disrupted those 8 apples. Now this is all before Mike's sighting of the gray creature. Now, that night we start hearing these whoops. I mean, like a lot of them, and it almost sounded like it was more than one. It sounded like 2 or 3 were doing this, and so Mike and I had taken those 8 apples and stacked them up. You know how you stack up cannonballs?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, that's what we did. We didn't know what we were going to do with them. We said, well, something's put them here. There's no trees around here to produce this, so something went and got them, and it had to carry them back. It had to have hands and arms to do what it did. So we go back down there to check our little thing that we left sticking up there, and it's all kind of knocked down, kind of scattered around. And then you're going, well, did it come back and do this, or did a deer do that? But
right.
Here's the kicker: there were now 9 apples.
9.
Right.
That's so.
So something I don't know what that is, and we're still working on the theory of this. But yeah, if there's 8, now there was 9.
Well, what I'll do, I'll share with you something. I don't know if it's even remotely related, but it kind of reminds me of what you're saying. On one of the episodes, we have a gentleman out of Daisy, Oklahoma. He saw a Bigfoot walk in front of him like 25 to 30 feet. We actually went out to his property, went out there, and we measured it somewhere around 10 to 11 feet. And he estimated it around 1,000 or more pounds. It was huge, and it really shook him up terribly. It walked at a diagonal. So this gentleman, we went out there, and now he's got like 26 acres of hunting property, and eventually he's going to build a cabin, and it's kind of on this mountain. It's not a big mountain, but in Oklahoma standards, it's pretty good size.
Yeah.
And up the hill from where he's at and across the road, he had a neighbor. And he's not shared what he saw with his neighbors. He only sees them every once in a blue moon, but he knows of them. They live in various places, like in Texas, and they come up to hunt. And this guy is building a cabin, so he stays in a little pop-up on the weekend and continues to build a cabin. Well, in the process, he is sawing timber and logs, and he has pieces of wood that fall off, obviously. And so he'll wake up in the morning and find these stacks of blocks of 2x6s, 2x4s, 1x2s, and they're just stacked on top of the wood pile, like in 3 or 4 stacks. But nothing's missing. He's got his generator outside, his all his expensive equipment, radial saws, reciprocal saws, drills, and everything's laying right outside on his property. It's remote. And so he went to this guy, and he said, and this guy that saw the Bigfoot, JC, and he said, is anything strange going on at your property? And JC said, well, what do you mean? Because he's really not talked about it. And he said, well, I got stacks of wood happening. Some kids are up here messing around, but nothing's stolen. I've got generators, all this expensive tools, but they're stacking these blocks. And then, so he knocks them down, and the next day there is a tree upside down with the roots pulled up.
Hey, Lance.
Yes.
Can you interrupt you for a second?
Absolutely.
I don't mean to. I'm at a pharmacy, and this lady's needs asking some questions. And can I call you back a little later?
You sure can.
Call me.
Yeah, I can call you back. No problem.
Okay. Let's do that. About an hour or so, something like that.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, Lance.
All right. So we're going to continue with this. We'll continue with this here in a bit.
Okay, the very first one that we spotted that my nephew was following.
Yes.
Okay, that was 1989, November, at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Wow, at 11 in the morning.
Yep, 11 in the morning.
And what was the color of that one?
He was dark. Might say dark brown, probably. He's real big.
It sounds like that one was kind of toying with him. Like if he wanted to get away, he definitely could, but he wanted them to kind of be close by. It sounds like.
Yeah, because Mike said several times he looked back at him.
Yeah, it's almost like he was just kind of follow me, boys, follow me.
Yep, that's what we thought too. Same deal. And then he would do the chameleon thing. You know, at about 3 different times, Mike said he did that. And but all the time he had long arms and big stride.
Wow, very
I
interesting.
know that. Well, think about me. I mean, I'm down there working at a cabin by myself, and all this is going on, and I'd never even heard of this stuff except the ones I told you about that happened when I was younger, farther to the south. You know, Tonubby and all that area down in there was kind of going on, but that wasn't in our area, so.
Well, I was going to ask what your beliefs or opinions were prior to that event of them seeing that Bigfoot.
Well, like I say, we had heard about over the mountain there, what's called Wolf Mountain. We had heard some things happening over there, and and remember the Boggy Creek Monster?
I do, yes, sir.
Okay, well, this would be kind of about that time when I was kind of hearing this stuff, and so, you know, you're thinking, well, you know, first thing you think of, well, is it a big ape? That's the first thing, because I've never seen anything. Say, I'm just hearing these stories, right. And of course, I'm a hunter, and you're always okay. It's a story, but you know, you're still looking over your shoulder. I don't care what you do.
Oh, of course.
But until you start getting engaged in these things, then you start going, oh my gosh, you know. And heck, Lance, it's just like I say. If in the entire world 100 people say they saw it, and you finally will it down to one actually saw it, then there actually is one in there.
Right.
Yeah, it just takes one to make it real.
Oh, absolutely.
But anyway, you were talking about this guy was stacking the wood and stuff.
Yes, sir. I threw that example in there. It just kind of it reminded me just like that for a second when you were describing these horse apples.
Yeah.
JC, the guy that saw the Bigfoot, didn't want to. This guy doesn't know anything about any Bigfoot on the mountain, so he didn't want to alarm this guy. He didn't know if this guy knew anything, so he just kind of generically said, well, it's probably just a bunch of kids, you know.
Yeah.
But this guy had a huge tree stump pulled out of the ground with the roots sticking up and stuck right in front of his pop-up trailer as you get out of the trailer. Yeah, and so he called JC. He called JC again, and he said, "What the hell's going on? You know why would they do that? You know?" And JC looked at the size of this thing, and he goes, "Dang!" You know, he's thinking to himself, another thing, you know. And so the guy hauls it, takes a truck, and moves it off to the side. And just moves it out of the way, and the next morning it's back right in front of his pop-up trailer again. And so this guy is just bewildered and befuddled what's going on. And this is not too far from that incident where that Bigfoot walked in front. He's also having, what's interesting, aside from that terrifying sighting he had that one morning about 5:30, this was in March of this year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And what's really strange is that he said, Lance, he said, I put out some salt blocks and some mineral blocks. I bought 2 salt blocks and put one out on my deer feeder, and I've got game cameras on my deer feeder, and I put the salt block right there. It's in the picture frame. He said, I went to go back and check my deer feeder because he lives down in Texas. I come back and the salt block's gone in a week.
Yeah.
And he said, I'm looking. He goes, unfortunately, I went ahead and erased the pictures, but in the photos, it's like you see the salt block, you see it, and it's gone. It's like I don't know how he could just take a salt. He goes, I've had salt blocks out with cattle that would last months and months and months.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I said, well, is there any remnant pieces like a bear, ate it and chunked on it? He said, no, it's gone.
Well, I can probably tell you why.
Well, it's a food source. It's there's nothing like that out around there, I'm sure. So it being a lick block, that's a mineral block. It's a food source. It's minerals needed for life. So, but what's your opinion?
Okay, he said nothing on the camera, right?
Well, it was. It's he said you can see multiple frames on the camera where there's nothing that he could tell was in the camera. You see the deer feeder,
okay,
and you see the mineral block or the salt block, and then the next frame, the salt block's gone.
Okay, and that's what I was going to say. I think I know why. Remember I told you about how these things we think can go chameleon or stealth?
Yes.
That's what's happened. I think, Lance, they have a way to detect electronics. Somehow, I don't know how it happens. They must have some kind of a way of doing it, because why don't we have them on game cameras?
Well, that's just it. That's always been a puzzle to me. I think
that's right. And I think they have a way they can detect it, and I think they have the ability to go stealth.
Now, when you say stealth, are you meaning that they blend so well into the surroundings?
Like chameleon, like my nephew said.
Like they just...
He was there, but he wasn't there.
But you don't mean that they just are like an apparition where they disappear?
No.
But they just have an affinity or some bizarre ability to just blend so well in, they just disappear right in front of you.
Yes.
I tend to be more inclined of that one, because how do you hide a 9-foot, 500+ pound creature in plain sight? That's just, it's still baffling to me to this day, because
that's the only thing. That's the only thing we can come up with. I mean, and like in that movie Alien. No, is that right? No, not Alien. I'm sorry, Predator.
Oh yes, Predator.
That's what he was doing.
Yeah, he was. He was
blending in. See, until he came out of it or changed it where it might be. I do think, because when we have these sightings, see, you have sightings and you see them. But around the cameras, which are electronic, they're putting off some kind of electronic power that we're not knowing anything about, but maybe they do. They go stealth. But out in the open, just walking around and nothing like that, they are what they are. Now, when Michael John was following this one, of course, he would come in and out of it. And that's where Michael came up with, he said, Uncle Bill, this thing was like a chameleon. One minute he'd be there, and one minute he wouldn't. And he was big. And so I think they have that ability. I really, truly do. But I think it takes probably a lot of energy to do it.
Yeah, that we don't quite understand yet.
Right, and that's what's so exciting about all this stuff is. But I think that's why on the camera. I mean, we don't have them on cameras either. I hardly know anybody that does.
Well, and I've thought about this long and hard. I do sincerely believe that they do see infrared in that spectrum, and it sticks out like a beacon when it goes off. They can see it. So that's one aspect. So it definitely tells them, hey, there it is. But I think on another aspect, they can sense the electronics of that, and they can sense it either puts off a sound or some type of EMF that they can they can detect it, and so they stay out of that range. They're just exquisitely elusive in that regard, where very, very few people have got these things on game cameras, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of these out in the woods, not just squatching, so to speak, and going out trying to find cryptids, but they're people have them on game for deer this time of the year. It's prevalent. And or for fur-bearing animals, like for mountain lions and bobcats. But very few people get them on camera, and that's got to be one of those two or all three of those has to be the reason why that they know where these darn things are at.
Yeah, and you're thinking exactly what we're thinking. I mean, we've talked about this a lot, our bunch down there, and they have to have the ability to be able to do this, and being that my nephew saw what he saw, that firmly convinced me that these things had the ability to, what I call stealth. They just go stealth on you. They're there, but you don't know it. And there's something this guy said from Ohio. He said it really kicked me right in the stomach, because my same nephew and I had gone down the mountains where we're at. There was this road that came off the main road that Mike saw his sighting on. Dove down this mountainside, going down to the bottom to a creek. And I had never been down there. Well, I started to go down there one day, and I got about halfway. And all of a sudden, you had this feeling, put the brakes on. And I did. And it was almost like making you kind of nauseated to your stomach, this feeling now. I'm not smelling anything. I'm just feeling something. And I'm thinking, I'm an older guy now, and, when I was younger, I just barreled off down in there, but I'm not doing that now. Something's telling me to stop.
Exactly.
So I stopped and turned around. And the further I went back up the mountain, the less I was getting nauseated. Until I got back to that main road, I was okay. Now we'll fast forward. My nephew had gone down the same road sometime after that. He got about 3/4 way down there, and the same thing struck him. He actually got so sick he threw up. He finally got back on his four-wheeler, and there was like something saying, do not come down here. Something. I don't know what it was. He turns around and comes back. Every time he gets back to the main road, he's feeling a lot better. So I don't know what that was. Time kind of went on, and me and Mike, I tell Mike about it. Mike said, let's run down there. Because I was real skeptical about this. So we go down there, and we went clear to the bottom, and nothing. So that tells me those 2 times we went down there, something was definitely down in there. But the time that me and Mike went, there wasn't.
It sounds like there might have been either some infrasound directed at you guys, or I can understand if you just get that sense about something's not right and you go up, but to have a nauseated feeling about it, pending there's no type of gas wells or anything in that area that could give a smell, but you said that there's no smell. To have two people feel that way, that's a bizarre moment. There's something else going on. But
let me tell you about another incident that happened down there. Let me find it here. Aaron found. Aaron finds. Okay, this would have been in 1997 in November. It'd be deer season, and my nephew Aaron, he finds an abandoned tent with sleeping bags, binoculars, hat, and no sign of anyone. So he comes and finds JW and me and Mike, and we all go down there. It was on the other side of the creek, not too far from our cabins. And we go down there, and hanging on a tree was like a western hat. And those things that Aaron described, I was just reading to you. It's like somebody, there was like a 6-pack of beer with 3 left in it. And there was like a bedroll inside that was all messed up, but nothing. For some reason, this camp was totally abandoned very, very fast. You know, what it is, somebody just drifted in there, set up camp, I don't know. It is on our property, but we didn't know anything about this. Now, I do know this. If I'm there, if I'm going to leave real quick, one thing of all those things that I want to grab would be what? Will be your hat.
Will be your hat, at least. Because that's...
Yeah.
You don't leave your hat.
Your hat. So you grab your hat, and you're gone. You may grab the binoculars. I doubt it. You're not going to grab the 6-pack of beer. You're not going to take the time to roll up the bedroll. You're not going to do any of that stuff. You're getting the hell out of Dodge, what you're doing.
Exactly.
I think, from hearing you're a guy in Ohio, I think this poor guy had an encounter and didn't turn out too well. That's what I think.
Well, that's highly likely. Do you know of any missing persons in your area or vicinity, in the local paper or anything like that?
Nope. This happened back in 97.
97. Wow. So he just, he left tent, beer, sleeping bag, and a hat.
Everything.
Wow.
And it's almost like, well, I think the poor guy could have been drugged out of camp.
Well, that sounds like it too. Very likely, because these things are. That's why we just tell people. Now, we don't know if this was a male or a female. I'm going to say it sounds like
no, we don't know. That's right.
Or how many there were. But it sounds like if there was one sleeping bag, there was one person. That's why we tell people never go by yourself.
Oh, well, we got like a number 1 rule down in our area. Now, Mike's gone down there twice now. I was telling him twice not to do it, to go down by himself. So he's gone down and kind of get a jump on it, like a day jump. But in that day early time twice now, he's had some issues down there. See? And that's why I tell him, I said, Mike, I don't go there by myself, period. I'm just not going to do it. Because, there's just too many things that can happen to you. But this one about that abandoned camp, there's no doubt in my mind. And see, JW, he's a former law officer, county sheriff and that kind of stuff, Mm-hmm. He has a cabin on my land, and we went to high school together and all this. And JW come over, and you just being a police officer investigating, JW, he kept concluding, no, this guy didn't bolt her. The guy was taken. Because the tent was like the front part where the zipper part is.
Yes.
It's kind of like caved in.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's kind of like caved in. Now, what we don't know is how long it had been there. Like I say, there's still 3 cans in a 6-pack of beer still laying. They weren't touched. Nothing was really, we could tell. Maybe the binoculars were, I don't know. The hat was still hanging on a tree. And but the bedroll and the tent was all screwed up and nobody around. So I think, because what all's happened since all that time, I think the poor guy was, I think he was running into a bad problem.
It sure sounds like it.
Yeah.
It really does.
I mean, I could show you the spot. It's creepy to me. even kind of go over there, to tell you the truth. But
Yeah.
but
We definitely like to take a look at that area, see just kind of what it looks like. It's probably not much different than where we go down to Three Rivers. We'll go, actually
Right.
we're going
Right.
down not this week but next weekend. But
Uh-huh.
the terrain is very treacherous.
Oh yeah.
Some areas are so viney. I mean, you got a lot of pine trees, but there's with the cedars and the pines, the lower foliage level on the ground is so thick a human can't walk through some of those areas.
Right.
But
But see, but it doesn't bother hairy things like deer and now down there. Have you ever heard of wood ape?
I have.
Yeah, well down there they kind of call it wood ape.
Yeah, I've heard that term down there quite a bit, actually.
Yeah, wood ape. It's what we call them wood apes for Bigfoot, whatever. But anyway, altogether we've had like 5 sightings. I mean, actual sightings. See, I saw one in the black powder season. Let's see, Bill has right here. What I saw was in 2004 in October. It was at 10 a.m. in the morning, and I was coming in. It was kind of rainy that day, and it was black powder. And so I'm coming in my truck, got my 4-wheeler in the back of the truck, and I'm across this dam. I'm going up this incline that's grade where I'm going to park. And off to my left out there is where that pond and that cabin we built, I'll tell you about earlier. So I was kind of looking through the woods there just real quick to see if I could see it. Because it's raining, you don't want to stay too long because you go from one side to the other, you get a problem on that road. On one side of that road to my right, it's a real deep ditch. The other side of it is just a grade slope clear down to that pond area. And when I turned back around, Lance, on the left side of the road, and it came from the right to the left, apparently it was in the ditch all this time. I just didn't see it. When I looked left, that's probably when it came out and crossed the road, because as I looked back, it was just going into this real tall, like 5-foot grass. And I go, what in the hell is that? Why do I say that, Lance? It's not a bear. It's not a deer. It's not a cow. It's something I don't even know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I saw a head. I saw a profile of the head, the back of the hair. It kind of like swooped down, kind of like a woman, actually. Down the back, I saw the back of his shoulders. Didn't see his arms, and kind of like his butt. And then I lost it. Because like I told you, that slope goes down toward that pond and our old cabin over there. The mountain does. And so my plan was, I'll go up the top and park, offload, come back down, see if I can't get some tracks or where it might be, and boy, it started raining. So I said, well, I'm not going down, especially going to mess everything up anyway. But that's what I saw. And like I say, let me put it this way, Lance, I know what it wasn't.
Yeah, good point.
I know what it wasn't. And I don't think I think it's more like 6 foot tall, to be honest with you. Because that grass was about 5 foot, and I saw a good 18 inches of its head and that kind of stuff, and then its back, back shoulders and its butt. It's walking right to left on me. But when I saw it, it just fixed to drop off that incline and go down, see? That's how I missed him. Talking about her. I think it's female, but I don't know. But it wasn't 7 or 8 foot tall. It was a smaller one.
Yeah, I was going to say, it sounds more like a juvenile, something smaller that, because we know these things can get real tall, real big, quick in its age. Interesting. So this has been going on a couple decades.
Oh yeah,
in your
Still
area.
Going on.
Now,
but like I say, I got all these happenings, all kind of rock throwings. My God, it's just incredible. Imagine what a while ago when you said this thing pulled the tree out by roots and all that, took the front guy's trailer or whatever.
Yes.
Okay. Now I told you a story about the cave on the mountain.
Yes.
Tree and roots. And see, that's what me and Mike kept thinking. How did that tree on top of this, with all them roots embedded in that rock, how did it all of a sudden, after all these years of growing, decide to fall down? And no other tree around it did.
Yeah, would you go into that? I think that's when I first started talking with you. Talk to me about the caves on the up there and what you guys think and found. Talking about this, if you don't mind.
Okay, there's a cave. I'd say it's probably 10 foot deep inside, and the roof of it inside is charred with black smoke, which University of Oklahoma, they came down and looked at it, and they said at that time that's when the Caddo Indians were living in there, and they probably used that cave to stay in, maybe while they're hunting or something like that, because that charred stuff was from campfires built inside. Okay, so it's a good one to get out of the weather in. Okay, I mean, you can get back in there and you're not going to get wet or anything like that. So, but on top of this rock, above it, all kind, where you got trees growing up there. And there's one was a blackjack oak. It was about 8 inches in diameter. Well, me and Mike go up there one time just to check, because we always see like deer tracks and that kind of stuff. And we walk down there, and now this tree has fallen off of these rocks up there, roots and all. It fell down in front of the cave, and it's about maybe 8 foot, 10 foot down, slid down the hill a little bit on this side of this draw, and that's where it rested. And so me and Mike are looking at that, and what the hell did it happen? And we talk, and we look around, and we leave. At some point there, I'd say probably less than a month later, we go back up there again. We're just riding around this time, and we went up to this cave, walked down there. Now, this 8-inch blackjack oak, and roots and all, had been dragged up to the cave and is stuck in the cave.
That's incredible.
I don't.
That's that takes a lot of strength to be able to do something like that.
Yes, it does.
A lot of
yeah,
strength.
like I told you, hell, blackjack oak is a little chainsaw.
Yeah,
that's how dense they are. They're heavy.
They are very heavy. It's almost not quite, but it reminds me of ironwood. It's a.
Yeah, you're right. Ironwood in Jamaica. I got some of that too here. Ironwood. You're right. But what? Well, we knew it wasn't a bear. That's the only thing that remotely has any strength at all. But a bear can't pick something like that up. So it had to, once again, something with a lot of strength, with arms and legs, to pick this thing up and drag it back up 10 foot up this slope, and then stick it in escape.
Yeah.
Why? Well, why'd that thing drag it down from that guy's trailer?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just no human had enough. There's no way that they could have drugged something like that up to that guy's pipe up without making a bunch of racket. It would require 2 or 3 of them to be able to do that. And then if they were, what would be the purpose?
Well, the other thing is too, Lance, nobody even hunts in there at all, in that whole area. It's just hard to get up there to it. We have foliage we go up, But, there ain't nobody going to walk up there. I won't guarantee you that. But
what is your opinion regarding these Bigfoot habitating or occupying big mountains, or in Oklahoma? When I say mountains, I mean in Oklahoma, because there's a couple of big mountains where we deer hunt, and nobody goes up there because it's too darn steep. Do you think these things? Do you think these things habitate on that for lookouts or for sound, for vocalizations? What's your opinion on that?
Yes, I definitely do. I definitely do think that, because we hear a lot of sound coming from that mountain. We call it K2. We hear a lot of sound coming from that direction up in there, and they're steep, and you might hunt, but you won't go all the way to the top. You'll hunt maybe to midway or lower if you're on foot. just because. But no, I definitely think that is what they. And years ago, I think I can't remember if I had this down here or not. There was a guy that was up there hunting, and one of the guy I told you about earlier where he got the rock stone aim at the pond?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, he had hiked up there, and he was on top, and it started raining. And all of a sudden, he sees this guy, and this guy's running at him. And it's almost like, oh, God, a fellow human, he was scared. He come over there, and he was talking to Steve, and Steve said, well, the guy's supposed to pick him up, meet him on this side of the crest cut, and et cetera, et cetera. And Steve said, why don't you come on back to camp with us, with me, and we'll get you to your camp, but this weather's going to get bad. And he said, no, I'll wait here. Okay, so Steve comes on back to camp, and time Steve gets here, the creeks are icing over, and it's sleeting, snowing, it's just getting real bad. Then we start hearing gunshots on top of that mountain.
Wow.
And yeah, and they were like panic shots. They were like this coordinated pre-shot thing. No. Those were like panic shots.
Uh-huh.
And so we all thought, oh my God, we all need to. This would be about 10 o'clock at night, I guess, or something along that line. And the problem was that we couldn't get across the creeks. They'd all swollen up, now they're icy and all that kind of stuff. And of course, Steve kept saying, well, I tried to get him to come back with me, and he wouldn't get it. And all he had on for a coat was the Army field jacket, those, small green ones.
Oh, right.
That's all he was wearing. And so anyway, come find out, I think he was from Ada. And anyway, they looked for him. They never did find the guy, ever. And so we thought, like, maybe, don't know about this one so sure, but the abandoned camp down below, well, we're darn sure that something got this poor boy or girl, whatever it might be, was in there. This guy on top, on the panic shot,
yes,
he definitely encountered something. But we can't say what it was. And like I say, he's never been found. So, and I keep thinking, oh God, someday we'll probably find a bone or something up there. But but we really don't hunt up there so much because it's not a real good place.
Right. Well, I started thinking of what you said with the caves on that mountain. It started making me think about where we deer hunt. There's a very high mountain right there, and it'll definitely test your endurance and aerobic capacity for sure. Mm-hmm. It's steep, rocky, rough terrain that you're going to have to pack a lunch. So I've just wondered, honestly, to climb up that just to see what I can see to get up there, because it's the tallest mountain around in those areas.
Yeah. Yeah, see, ours is like 14, 15 foot, 100 feet up, above sea level. So probably from the ground up, it's probably good 900 foot straight up if you're in the middle of it. I'm guessing. It's pretty high. I mean, it's tough booker to climb.
That's probably about what this one is.
Yeah, it is kind of misty. You're dealing with the same thing down there that we deal with where we're at. Same type of trains and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know if you know this or not, Lance, but the Kiamichi Mountains, like where we're at and you're kind of at,
yes,
that's actually the extent, the western end of the fingers of the Appalachian chain mountains.
Yeah, that's what I've seen. It's I didn't know that till earlier this year. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, we're the western fingers of the Appalachian Mountains is what we are. And that kind of tells you, because the Appalachians, they're bad steep too. And so it all kind of comes together there. But anyway, Lance, I'm telling you, buddy, I've I'm so glad I got your phone number.
Yeah, me
because
too.
I have tried to call these other organizations. I can't even get a phone number. Or you can leave a message and all that kind of stuff. Well, good luck on that. And but when I saw your phone number on your screen on your screen thing that you put up,
Yes.
State of Oklahoma and the wolf or something that's in the middle of Bigfoot.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the reason I thought I'm gonna give this guy a call. And so here we are. But Mark was over here yesterday, and I was telling him about our conversation about maybe we all should get together sometime and just sit down and we can just talk about this, because everybody has their own little part of this thing. And like David was in Mark's cabin, they built that one together. He went by himself, and he hears something coming up about 1 a.m. in the morning, and he said it was heavy. It woke him up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, woke him up, walking in the sea. Mark's cabin is built up, it's kind of steep up there, so it's got like a rock roadway comes up to it and all that. And you know, rocks move, etc. And David's waking up by this walking, and he said it scared him. He wasn't making a noise other than maybe a couple of little sounds.
Uh-huh.
And it was definitely on 2 feet. It wasn't 4. It wasn't a bear. It was, and because all of our bears down there are daytime bears. Ours are not nighttime at all. And so he's thinking, I got to get to my rifle, which is on his rack. And he said as soon as he put a foot on the floor of that cabin, this thing heard it, and he turned, went by the outhouse, into the woods, and Dave said he was not being quiet about it.
Wow.
He said he could hear all kinds of limbs and stuff breaking down through there. Yeah, so it's just not good to be by yourself. I just don't do it. I'm not going to do it.
No, it's not. And we, a common rule that we have when we go down to deer camp is everybody always carries a sidearm, whether you're going out to the outhouse or just walking around midday, getting a snack.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody carries a sidearm, and I heard you say that about your group. And
oh yeah,
when you're down in that part of the country, you really do. It's you can get lost real fast down there in some of those places.
Yeah.
So
that's why I always carry with me on me at all times. I always carry a map and a compass. I always have that. My 4-wheeler's got like maps and compasses and lights and all kinds of stuff, because if I ever get hung up out there at nighttime, I can make me a something to get into a lean tie. I carry a tarp. I can make me a tent or whatever it might be for the night, and that kind of stuff. But yeah, weapon, you gotta have a weapon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Do you find that most of the activity, we've had this conversation quite a bit with Wiley, Dave, and the brothers, but it seems like the Bigfoot and the Dogman activity really picks up in the fall, continues on through the winter. Not that it's say you can't have activity all year round, but we just noticed in the Oklahoma area, it seems like the fall during muzzleloading, archery, and rifle, it really picks up. What's your opinion of that?
Yeah, that seems to kind of be. If you look at hang on here just a second, because I'm kind of thinking we have it quite often, even beyond all that. Hang on a second here. Okay, let's see here. November, July, November, October, March, June, November, October, November, March. Let's see. June, September, April, May, October, November. Yeah. See, we kind of scatter there through the year.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting. Most of the it's a scattering of the folks that's called in to us with encounters. It's different times of the year, but it seems more than not that there tends to be more of these sightings around fall and winter.
Yes, that's what mine's showing too.
And then I would say next would be early spring. Again, not that it can't happen through the year by all means. There's plenty of accounts where that's happened, but it seems like fall, winter are the two biggies right there.
Yeah, and I think my information is kind of saying the same thing. A lot of September, October, November. Now I don't have any December because we're not down there typically in December. And but you know, it's like Mike said. He said, "Bill, if we lived here, it'd probably scare you to death to know what you would really know."
He's right.
If you lived there, you'd go, "Oh my gosh!" And let me tell you another one happened to Mike too. This happened in 2016. It was about March, I guess it was. Our cabin is called cabin, and we're going to go over to JW's cabin, and we're going to go the back way through the woods, around the little trail we made. We're going to cut through, see. And so Mike's doing that by himself. He's come over to JW's cabin, and he's tooling along there, and it was like in May or something along that line, and he has like a T-shirt on, and all of a sudden he gets hit in the back by a rock. He said it's kind of like the shoulder and neck area.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he got hit in the back. It didn't come from the top down. It came at him because the force of it. So he stops the four and he looks around and he sees nothing. Absolutely nothing. So he's thinking, Now he's got a pistol on him. He always carried none. So Mike's going to continue on over to JW's, and he takes off, and he probably didn't go, he said probably 20 feet. He got hit again in the back. And it's a rock, it hurt like hell, he said. He said only this time he didn't stop. He just takes it, there's something throwing a rock at him, and he made a beeline for JW's camp. And that was in between our two cabins.
Yeah.
And that was, like I said, that was in 2016. And it was in May. Got 2 o'clock, he said, when that all happened.
Wow, 2 o'clock.
Yeah, we get them all. All this stuff all happens at different times. That's why I say, if you live down there, you'd probably be scary to know what you're going to find out. But like I say, we have a map here that I plotted all this stuff on, and you'll see what I'm talking about. I'm telling you, something that it lives somewhere in the middle of all this activity, because it's like we're like a donut around this thing.
Yeah,
and
that's the other thing.
It didn't come from home none of you up here and do this. It's something living right here.
Yeah, that's something that we talked about, but I didn't get a chance to record it. That you said, based on the plotting of where you noticed where all these incidences are happening, that it's kind of like a donut. It's kind of around you guys.
Yes, it is.
So the habitation, or it's this clan or this group of Bigfoot, are very, very close to your cabin and staying in that area.
Yeah. Now the other cave I was telling you about, it's up on what we call the cut on the side of the grass. And it is a little bit southwest. Let me see in front of it. It's about a mile maybe. It's about a mile from where all our activity goes on, is where this bigger cave is at. And it'd probably be about the size of maybe like your living room or something, Mark said. But it looks clean in there. It wasn't like bones and things everywhere. But he said it has 2 entrances. One entrance is you can come from below up the rocks, climb into it. But there's also another entrance that comes from the high side, and it's easier to go down into it. Now, we keep going to have an expedition to go up there, and every time we get down, we get doing something else. But this year, we're definitely going back, and we're going to go up. And me and Mike want to see this cave too. But it's definitely one that if you had to, you could get in and live. You had to do it. And, but that's down on these rocky cliffs down here. I got marked. But anyway, yeah, Lance, I just think we all need to get together and sit down and just talk. I mean, we could tell you about the sound that woke me and Mike up one night at 2 a.m. in the morning. And it was directly below our cabin, between our cabin and Mark's cabin. And this thing was the most frightening sound. We woke out of a dead sleep. And it's so dark I can't see Mike in his bunk, and he couldn't see me. So we're both awake, we're both sitting up, we both got guns drawn. And this sound, I don't know if I think it's like a call. But this thing was so loud, it went on for 5 minutes, nonstop. How do I know this? Because I turned my light on and looked at the clock when I first woke up. And when it stopped, I looked at it again, and it was a good 5 minutes, and about a minute break, and it did it again. And it was right down there. I mean, this thing was so loud, man. It's actually making your ears kind of hurt, but definitely your hair in the back of your neck stuff was all standing up. And pretty soon the mic says, "Bill, are you hearing this?" I go, "Yeah." But neither one of us would go out on the porch. That wasn't going to happen. And then I said, it did twice, and then it stopped. Now, what that told me was that we got some kind of creature that's between our cabins down at the bottom making a noise that's loud, and he could care less who in hell hurt him. Because animals do not make noises like this.
No.
Cougars are prowling around at nighttime. Down there, the bears are asleep at nighttime. And the only other thing would be coyotes, and we got wolves down there too. And this wasn't any of that kind of stuff. This was something totally, and we had tried for years to come up. I've listened to Sierra sounds. No, that's nothing to this. And the only thing, Lance, that we can remotely get close to it, but like Mike said, but that's not it, is that sound that Predator makes in that movie. When he yells, that yell he makes.
Yes.
Kind of like that. But that's still not it, but that's close to it. And, but this, anyway, it scared us so bad. And we're two grown guys with guns, and we've been in the woods all our lives. We just started to make breakfast next morning, and Mike said, "Bill," he said, "I think we ought to leave." And we packed and left, and we were out about 8 o'clock. And the reason was, Lance, to be honest with you, we didn't know what we were dealing with here.
Yeah.
That was kind of scary for us. We had no idea what we were dealing with.
Well, that's just it. If you don't know what you're dealing with, the best to, just go with your gut feeling. And if it says get out of an area or leave an area, I think sometimes that's the best advice, is just what does your gut instinct say?
Okay, that happened in 2004, and that was in March at 2 a.m. in the morning.
Wow. Yeah,
it was right down to our cabins.
That's a peak time, that midnight to 5 a.m.
I know. We have a lot of that. We have a lot of that in 12 to 2 or 3, 1 o'clock type stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
And but Lance, I can't really stress to you enough how this thing frightened us. I mean, we got guns and all that kind of stuff, but I'm telling you what, it was so bad you didn't want to breathe.
It's hard to describe because it's a fear that you can only feel, and sometimes describing it is incredible.
Yeah.
It's really hard to even talk about it because it's such a primal fear that your instinct just says we got to go.
Well, that's what we did. We got out there, and then a few years. Think about that. About a couple of years later, me and my wife, and we have a Labrador. His name's Jake. So we go down there, and we're on the cabin, and I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning or something like that. Jake's sleeping with us in the bed. We put our bunk beds together, and and all of a sudden he wakes me up because he's getting up. And I'm thinking, does he want to go outside? Use the bathroom or something? But no, he's up and he's looking out. We got 3 windows on the downhill side of our cabin, and he's looking at the middle one. And how dogs will kind of take their head down, that kind of a neck arch down deal.
Yes.
Well, that's the posture he's in, and so I'm going to reach. I'm going to pet him like Jake, and Lance. He was hard as an M212.
Wow.
And he's looking. He's not making a sound. He's not moving. I'm going, and I'm punching. I said, Jake, what are you doing? Jake like that. Maybe he can look at me. He has that head down. I'm thinking, okay, he's seeing something down there, but I can't see it because it's so dark. But animals typically, if they see something that frightens them, they're not going to move. They're not going to make a sound. Exactly. And that's what he was doing. He saw something through that window down there. I thought it was down by the creek. But my brother and Mike, they said no. They said, no, Bill. He was probably just outside or somewhere pretty close for Jake to be like that. So something was up there. And trust me, it's not a bear or a deer, because my Jake has seen bears and deers. And but this was something else way beyond all that.
Yeah.
And this poor boy was so scared that he couldn't even move. I couldn't even move him. And but we think now it might have been maybe just outside the cabin.
That definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
You've got some pretty heavy cryptid activity there. It'd be interesting to head up your way sometime or down your way with the guys and just kind of take a look at the terrain and where things happened and where he's had the sighting.
Well, I was talking to Mark about that, and Mark said that he thought definitely you guys need to come down. When we got cabins and we all stay in. That's not a problem. And we could bring all this stuff with us, and we just have a good sit down wood ape / Bigfoot / dogman, whatever we want to call them, and you can see these things that I have plotted here. These areas. I mean, they're there, and the heaviest part of it so far, Lance, really is kind of along where our cabins are at, and along this Cedar Bottoms, we call it, the creek.
Right.
It seems to be real heavy in there.
Yeah.
So we're right in the middle. We're right in the middle of it. But I'm telling you,
that'd be great. We'd love to come down sometime. We'll have to schedule it where we can make our way, especially this time of the year would be a good time, it sounds like, and just take a day or two to head up there and chat with you guys and just take a look at the area and see if we can get any type of vocalizations or experience down there.
Well, you're more than welcome to come. I mean, we would love for you to come. I say BFR's been down there, and that night we got the rock thrown at us. Well, they were totally tripped out, but anyway, we'd love for you to come down.
Can you tell me about that? You did on the first discussion, but could you tell me about the BFRO with them coming down and what happened?
I get a call one day from, I can't remember his name. He later BFR later transferred him to North Carolina. I think his guy's name was Grant or something like that. Well, anyway, he called me and he said, I understand you guys have a lot of activity down where you have your cabins, that kind of stuff. And I said, yeah. And he said, we'd like to come down, just like you were saying a while ago, and do a little investigation. And I said, well, yeah, that'd be fine. Because I've been watching it on TV, see their show,
Right.
And so I thought, okay. Well, then I get a call a little bit after that. A guy by the name of Mike, and another guy he's from Calquall, and another guy out of McAllister. I can't remember it might be Aaron or something like that. They were going to come down because Grant they got moved out to North Carolina for BFRO to do stuff out there for them. Okay, so we all meet and we go down and we sit at the cabin, at Mark's cabin, and he gave us we talked quite a bit about it, and I kind of had my map and stuff showing these things were taking place. And he was going, good Lord, Bill. He said, you guys got more stuff here than BFRO and me and the programs put together. I said, yeah, we've had a lot of it. It's been for a long time. And so anyway, he said, well, what we'd like to do is break up the two teams. One of us would go this one road where I found my footprint, and the other group will go up the High Line. And I said, okay. So one guy went with them, and Mike went with them, the other guy went with us. And we're going to add, but as we're walking out from the cabin down to the High Line, we hear a noise out to the left. And it was kind of like that, now that I have heard it, it's kind of like that whoop sound. And they go, oh my God. He said, oh Lord, those two guys are talking. We've never heard that. La, 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 la. So we get the High Line, that's when we split up, and we went our way. But as we're going our way, we could still hear something kind of like parallel us walking out in the woods.
Ah.
And yeah, and when we stopped, it would stop. And we start walking, and then we get to a place up there where we know bears kind of bed down in this general area. But there's a little road that goes back down where that somebody turned it off down there and cut a bunch of wood up and all that kind of stuff. So we decided to sit down there, and this is probably around midnight, I guess. So we sit down there, and me and Jason are looking the way we were walking to get there, and then the rest of them are all looking back down from the direction from which we came. So we're all sitting there in a group. Then a little while later, I start hearing something off to my left. I'm thinking, what the hell is that? And I said, you don't hear that? And of course, no, but I did. Heard it 2 or 3 times. And then, shortly after that, all of a sudden, there's this rocket thrown, and it lands right in front of hit right in front of Mark and rolled up to him. And he says about the size of a baseball. And we said, oh my God. And of course, everybody got excited about that, but it definitely was thrown. Well, a few days later, me and Mark went back to that same spot, and we found the spot where the only place where the rock could have been thrown from. Because there's a lot of timber to the right of the spot, and to get over that tree, you don't go a Hail Mary straight in the air. So he had to have been standing where we were talking about to throw the rock, which is more open, see?
Right.
Because we couldn't see anything because it was like 12 o'clock at night or something like that. But that's kind of how that went. And then they got back to the cabin, and the next day they're going to leave him back. And I told him, I said, Mike, I said, we didn't invite you guys down here so we do that town hall thing and all that stuff. That's not why we don't want you to come in. We wanted some validation. And I said, you give it to us.
Sure.
And they said, oh, yeah, you guys definitely got it. They said, this is actually prime territory for these guys. And you think about something else, Lance. Even where you're at, what's the only time is there actually any human pressure in there?
Yeah, that's just it. There's very little.
Seriously.
Yeah, exactly.
So, other than that, they got free reign.
Uh-huh.
And that's what Mike was saying. Bill, if you lived down here, he said he'd probably scare you to death to know what you might find out going on. So, but anyway, yeah, me and Mark were talking, and I think it'd probably be a good idea if you guys would definitely come down. I think you'd like it, and we've all had encounters with this stuff. And but Mike's had the latest sighting, and but there's been actually 5 sightings down there that I know of.
Yeah, that would that's definitely an area that seems to be quite frequented and inhabited. They live there.
Yeah.
I mean, bottom line, it sounds like they live there. You've got rock throwing, you've got daytime sightings, you've got all kinds of interesting vocalizations. Do you get a lot
Well,
of...
we've had tree knockings. Oh, my God. Hey, I got another right here just recently, too. David, me and Mark at the cabin, and David had taken a walk down that little lane, and he says, hey, he comes back and says, hey, guys, come see this. So we brought him down there. Here's this cedar tree, probably 2-inch in diameter, and, it's up there about 6, maybe 7 foot tall, and the top part of it, Lance, is snapped over. I mean, that's pretty hard to do on a cedar tree limber like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Now you think about it. For me and you to break something over, we would have to bow our chest high and grab something to break it over. This was up much higher than that. And we have a photograph of it, too. And we have a photograph with David standing by it so you get kind of scale of it. But it's my understanding that that's the way they kind of mark territory. And where it broke at, tell me, it was a big guy. Because, how you have to grab hold of it and break it and that kind of stuff. But here comes the good part. We got a hair sample.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got it in a bottle out there in the back of my 4-wheeler. We carry a little kit back here for this kind of young things where a little notepad, and we got plaster Paris, and, we get smarter on it.
Yeah. No, that's perfect.
Yeah, we got a hair sample. I just don't know where to send it to for testing, And I was first telling the guys, I said, I think he's coming to Cambridge University, but that's the stars. I was wrong about that. And but yeah, we got a hair sample on it. We got photographs and on that one there too. So, and that wasn't very far from Mark's cabin. Not at all. Yeah.
That's interesting.
So there's a lot of stuff, Lance, that's happening in the general area of our cabins and down in that cedar bottom and along that creek. A lot of stuff's happened down there. That's why I'm saying actually it's a pretty dangerous place if you want to get down to the truth of it all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we'd love to come down for sure. I'll get.
Okay.
What I'll do is I'll talk to the guys and we'll get a definitive time where we can just let you know ahead of time here soon.
That'll be fine.
I'd like to do it before December 31st. Do that and just meet you guys and come down and stay a night or two and just walk around and take a look.
Well, we've been like spend a weekend or something down there, Just you guys have 4-wheelers?
We don't at the present time, but we can have access. We have access to some. Okay.
Because I think you might want to bring one or two if you can. To show you some of these places that we're talking about. And me and Mike the loggers got up there on K2 and did some stuff, and me and Mike are going to go back up there and see if we can find the trail that goes to that cave I think about, where the tree was dug up to it.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to try to find the trail back to that. We haven't been up there since they did all that, but that's going to give us something to do. So we're going to take an expedition and go up in there and try to reestablish that. So, but anyway, yeah, you guys just think about it, and or if you want to come by someday and drop by and we can sit down and talk, that's also fine.
Yeah, that'd be great. That would be great. We'd love to sit down and see what kind of information you guys have, where you've had certain encounters, and just kind of document that. Walk around and just meet you guys. So, well, in ending here a little bit, Bill, do you have any parting words or anything you'd like to say just for people that are out and about, and especially here in Oklahoma? But, these things are all over. What's your...
Well, I think what I would say was, I think if you go down there with the intent of looking and finding one, I don't think that's going to happen. It always seems to be when you're not prepared for it. That's when it seems to take place. So anybody that goes down in those mountains, you better carry a weapon, because you don't know what you're going to run into. And we've gotten smarter over the years. That's for darn sure. We used to go out there and lay down there in a cedar tree and go to sleep in deer season. Now, I wouldn't do that now. Ain't no way. Ain't happening. But they're out there. But we don't. Well, we can tell you a lot more, Lance, when we sit down. There's a lot more stuff that you're going to raise your eyebrows about.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, it was good chatting with you. I'm so thankful you called in. I appreciate speaking with you. We'll definitely be talking some more and have some follow-ups here for sure. Okay.
Well, like I said, you guys want to get together before we go down there. I think that'd probably be a good deal, too. I'd get me and my brother and David, and we could just, wherever, sit down and I can fill it up with this list. I can fill you this map, and then you could do a follow up on that by just coming down the mountains with us.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right.
Well,
you have a great day. We'll keep in contact. I've got your number. You've got mine. I will talk to the guys, and we'll get right back to you then. And thanks again.
Okay.
I appreciate you sharing what you guys have been experiencing down there in the Kiamichi Mountains.
Well, we're glad we found somebody we can share it with. I mean, we've got a lot of stuff that's happened, and it's kind of frustrating. You try to get a hold of somebody, but hey, you guys, you're doing this, but you don't want to hear it. I don't guess because nobody's talking about it except you. See?
Exactly.
And so therefore, whatever is discovered or whatever happens, you'll have carte blanche on it, Lance. That's for sure. So.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Bill, and thank you for your time, buddy. We'll keep in contact, and you have a good rest of the day.
Hey, you too, Lance.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.